A past Saturday morning, I received a video chat call from my older brother, who at the time was traveling in Cambodia. In answering the call, my brother came to view, sitting outside of a small cafe in the dead of night in the capital of Cambodia. As we began talking, 3 young girls under the age of 9 approached him, and then their gaze fell upon me, this being the first time they'd experienced video communication. The youngest of the 3 cautiously approached the video camera. She then moved a little bit closer, and together we waved, we smiled, and we laughed. And then something happened. One of the girls slowly lifted her hands towards the camera, and within them was a plethora of bracelets, each finely woven together in a multitude of colors. While I was admiring the fine weaving, one of the girls interrupted my thoughts as she began to sell the bracelets to my brother and myself. However, there was a condition. I was to play rock, paper, scissors via the video chat, and if I lost, my brother would be held accountable to purchasing 5 bracelets as opposed to 1, luckily for me. So next thing I knew, I initiated in a game 2 worlds connected through technology: rock, paper, scissors, and shoot. But I lost. But when I lost, I gained something much greater than 5 bracelets. I gained a new perspective. This perspective was I realized these young girls working the streets of Cambodia's capital in the dead of night were not doing so out of choice, but rather as a means to support their families, a means to fill their empty stomachs, and they probably did not receive much, if any, of an education. Additionally, while these young girls may have just been selling bracelets, my brother later informed me that many of Cambodia's children instead face the harsh realities of selling themselves. This new perspective forced me to take a step back to realize the lack of empathy that I held towards others, specifically those who lacked the privileges in which I held. But beyond my own perspective and realization within this unique situation, I also gained insight to a much larger societal problem. Today, as an American society, we have collectively transitioned towards the widespread use of apathy. Apathy, a term defined by neurologist Dr. Donald T. Struss in the Journal of Neuropsychiatry and Clinical Neurosciences, 2005, as the absence of responsiveness to stimuli, with the requirement that this lack of responsiveness be demonstrated by a lack of self-initiated action. In other words, this definition is seen within our own American indifference towards providing aid and assistance to foreign countries and its citizens, towards each of our own lack of responsiveness to helping and donating to beneficent causes within the United States, and even within our own American frustrations at the government funding of specific social programs. Which leads me to ask the question, actually I'm not going to ask it at the moment, but if I were to ask each and every one of you if you have ever chose to look away rather than acknowledge someone else's problem, most of you would raise your hands. But rather than doing so and blaming you and myself included, what we're going to do today is look at the deeper and inherent cause that causes our American apathy, as well as work together towards finding a solution. In finding this cause, it's important to have an understanding of the term developed by Leon Festinger in 1957 called cognitive dissonance. To break this down a little bit so it's easier to understand, I did some research so that I could better understand my own apathy towards others. So cognitive dissonance itself is elaborated within Professors Stephen W. Littlejohn's and Karen A. Foss's book called Theories of Communications. Their book emphasizes that a cognitive element is comprised of an individual's values, perceptions, beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors towards a particular subject. Now, when these elements, our cognitive elements, contradict one another, this creates dissonance. And when dissonance is created, this causes you and I to feel stress towards a particular situation. But to better explain this, I have an example that is relevant to American apathy for our 3 responses to this situation and the dissonance and tension that is created. So let's say, on my way home from school, I drive past a food bank. Now I hold the knowledge that the food bank could really use my help. Yet I also hold the perception that I'm a high school student and I really need to get home so that I can finish my homework. But in holding these 2 perceptions and knowledge, now I'm feeling cognitive dissonance in our tension that is created. But as a result to this tension, I may behave by changing my behavior. Therefore, I may alter the route so that I no longer have to go past the food bank on my way home. The second thing I may do is I may reinforce an initial cognitive element. So that perception that I need to do my homework, I'm also going to decide that because I'm not committed to a college yet, I really should get going on my college applications. But beyond that, I may also decide to lessen the importance of one of my initial cognitive elements. So this may say that now I'm going to try to tell myself that my contribution towards helping the food bank is not significant towards solving for hunger. Through these 3 different responses, this causes me to rationalize and justify my own need for not being responsive to the needs of others. Now I have closed my perspective, and I'm not being helpful, and I'm showing apathy. This is a perspective that's seen on my own individual level, but it's also paralleled as a society in our actions. So how, as a society, what can we actually do to solve this problem? Well, for me, and for us, it largely comes back to this Cambodian bracelet in which I wear every day as my own reminder to be a more empathetic individual. On a societal level, it simply would not be feasible for each of you to replicate my own personal experience. But what we can do as a society comes back to these bracelets. One day when I looked down upon it, I noticed that it's comprised of multiple knots. Some knots are tight, but some are also misshapen. But each knot is critical in its role of interconnection. As a society, our perceptions, thoughts, knowledge, ideas, beliefs, they are also interconnecting in how we act to each other. So what this means is that today we can make a change. What we can do is we can decide to open our perspectives, to be more empathetic individuals. And this is a change that starts today. It's a change that starts here. And it's a change that starts with us. So I ask you to join me, and together we can reweave a societal bracelet of change.